What is the magic number for retirement? How much do you need to save to be safe? And keeping cash at home, is it a good idea? All that and so much more on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. They can be found at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Check us out online. It's a wonderful resource website, efmnw.com. All letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, links to our radio show in podcast form. Great information on retirement. Between Mark and Casey, 42 years combined experience. Again, certified financial fiduciaries, and I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Guys, before we jump into it, we've got 3 really interesting articles. Hope we can get to them all. But before we jump into the latest, how was your week?
It was good. We're glad to be back with you, Morgan. Well, maybe just not so much, but a little bit. And
man, shots fired. That was rough.
Wow. Ringing endorsement, Mark.
That was hurtful. Holy smokes. Mark speaks for himself on that one, Morgan. I don't know what that was.
Well, and just want everybody to know we spent some time in Hawaii. That was really, really nice to get away. In fact, one of my favorite restaurants in all the world that I've been able to visit. Those that are listening, if you ever get to Maui and you don't go to Mama's Fish House, you're making a big mistake. It is just fantastic. So we enjoyed that very much. Spent some time with Casey and Cammie. And it was a nice wind down after it's been so busy here at work. And so it was good to get away.
Well, what's your go-to order at Mama's Fish House?
It's definitely fish.
Wow, that was
yeah.
There are only a couple of fish in the ocean, you know.
Well,
they're all good.
Very descriptive.
Just don't go there if you want to do steak or chicken. Okay, go somewhere else.
Let's go with the fish.
Yeah, I like the fish. Yeah. They've got a really good carp. They've got a good carp that I like, Morgan.
Yeah. Well, I ended up having a piece of paka paka.
Okay, so there you go.
There you go.
Paka paka.
But what was so good about it is the preparation, 5 different styles, and then I ended up picking the Thai curry, the way they did that, and it ended up being, and I'm from Seattle, right? So we've been here, I should say I've been here 43 years.
You live in Seattle, you're not from Seattle.
Yeah, not from. My wife is, but I will say this, it ended up being the best preparation of a piece of fish that I've ever had. So it was very, very enjoyable.
It's a beautiful view, right? I mean, that's honest. I mean, the food was good, right? I no knock on the food. The food was great, but you're like right on the beach there. It's very private. I mean, it was very nice. It was a nice place. It was my first time there, my first time to Hawaii at all, actually. And it was cool, right? Because it started out as a work trip, and then we extended it as a family. So it started out as a work trip. We were there with some of the top financial advisors and planners across the country, which we love because we get to share ideas. We get to talk about what they're seeing in the market, what we see in the market, and ultimately we think it really is great for our clients because it just helps keep us sharp and up to date on all the things that are going on, right? So
it's like cool. Continuing education. You got to find out what the pulse is around the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was nice, and then we extended it as a family. So my wife and myself, Mark and his wife, and of course Mark and I are father-in-law, son-in-law, right? So the 4 of us went over to Maui for a few days, and it was nice. We got to do some different stuff. We did side-by-sides up in the mountains, went on an old pineapple plantation, did a river float through a sugar plantation. So got to do a lot of different cool stuff, and just tried to soak it in. Like Mark said, right? I mean, we're in it each and every day for our clients, right? We grind it out day in and day out. So it's nice to get a little bit of a break and go have some fun together.
And when you treat yourself, you just get that anonymous fish. That's what we're going with.
Yeah, I got the fish. Yeah.
I went to a fish house, Morgan. What do you think I got?
Exactly. Well, a lot of fish houses will serve other stuff, all right?
I got you. I got you now. Now, on the second part where you were very descriptive, I was like, bingo. There you go. I'm getting hungry. But
I got that fish.
One thing I do want to say that we had a couple of very friendly women come down to the pool at the complex we were staying on Maui, and we're just above Lahaina, okay? And so I will say this, that when you realize they had lost their business, they had lost everything basically. And when you hear stories like that, a three generation business, dive business, when the marina burnt to the ground, they lost their boat, they lost everything in their homes. And so it really makes you appreciate. You need to take it one day at a time and appreciate what you do have, because when it's all taken away, literally in minutes, it makes you realize what's important in life.
Well, and you bring up a really good point. We'll end up talking about this when we go over some of the articles, the latest articles that we've picked out. But enjoying your retirement, I think Mark, you kind of nailed it. I mean, we get so fixated on saving and putting it away. Do we have enough? Yep. And then things happen. I mean, you need to go ahead and schedule those good times. Make sure you're planning for those.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because we talk about it all the time. You got the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And once the health starts to go, it changes everything, right? So we want our clients to enjoy the year. We don't want them to just see them retire and then die a few months later. And when we tell you, we hear stories. I've had it happen in my career, and it happens way more than what people may even think. And it's sad when it's like, because you've worked your whole life to enjoy, hopefully 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and then if the health goes, then it doesn't matter how much money we have.
And I think this is really important. I just want to hit this real quick, and I know we're kind of a little off topic, but I think it's all good stuff, right? That ultimately what we see, and this happens a lot, people come into us, that listen to the radio show, see the TV show, come to a workshop, whatever it is, right? They come in, and sometimes they already have an advisor. Maybe they've been in retirement for 3 or 4 years already. And we start talking about what they're spending and what they're doing and how they're living their lives and what they're enjoying in these things. And what we find is they might have $1 million, $1.5, $2 million, $5 million saved in their accounts, right? Whatever that number is, they've got the money saved. But what they've done is they found a way to pare their life down so that they live just on their Social Security and a pension if they've got it. But they're afraid to take money from their accounts. Yep. They're afraid to go live their life. And that's the last thing we want for our clients, because what that really means is that maybe you have a plan, right? Air quotes, maybe you have a plan, but you don't really trust the plan, or you don't understand it well enough that you feel comfortable spending the money that you've worked so hard for. And we talk about that a lot, that's one of the biggest battles that we face. Sure. is trying to get clients to go from being great savers to being great spenders and enjoying their lives. And that's where we're always talking about a plan, right? And if you listen to our show regularly, you might be like, man, these guys are just always talking about a plan, right? And it's because that's what you need. That's what you need to feel comfortable, to go spend, to live your life. We don't want to plan you a retirement that has you just sitting around spending your Social Security money and leaving the rest of the money growing in the market. Yeah. That's a good thing. We want the money to grow, but we want you to spend it, and we want you to live your life and do those things, make the memories and spend the time together. And you got to have a plan to help you do it. Yeah. Otherwise, it just isn't going to happen.
I mean, think about it. It's like you're saving your entire working life. I mean, how much do you have in the tank? What can you do with that? I mean, you want to go on that. You want to go on that ride, man. You want to enjoy retirement. Having a plan will let you know how much you've got in the tank, how far it's going to take you. And again, being ready for retirement is what we talk about each and every week here on Elevate Your Wealth. It's an opportunity for you to listen and to learn, but also to get on the calendar with this team, Mark, Casey, Elevated Financial Management, and it's at no cost, no obligation, no pressure. We'll tell you about that here in just a second. I want to start the conversation with the first article that you want to get into, and that's Stashing Cash at Home, New York Times. And if you do this, stashing cash at home, sure to create headaches. Why did this jump out at you guys?
I think it stands out because this maybe isn't as common as it used to be, but we still have folks that keep cash, that keep gold, that keep all those things at home.
Oh,
right?
I'm doing it. I have cash that my wife doesn't even know about stashed in my closet.
Well, Mark, if you need a good advisor, just let me know. I'll take care of you. You know what I mean? I think the reality is having some cash at home is okay, right? There's no issue with that. That's not the message that we're really trying to get across here. But we do see people hold much more cash at home than they should. And, we get that there's a certain comfort level to that. There's a piece to that makes you feel good just to have that money. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. but we want to still make sure that we're being responsible. Right now, with interest rates where they are, you've got such an opportunity to have money in a money market account that has no time commitment, and you can earn 5% or more, right? We've got funds for clients in those type of accounts right now because we just need some liquidity, but we don't want it sitting on the sidelines. And so, if you have a big chunk of cash at home, that's a sign that you probably need to have a conversation with a group like us, somebody that can help you plan things out and figure out what areas you might be missing. And the biggest issue is inflation is killing that money. That's the big problem. If you got a bunch of money sitting on the sidelines in cash, inflation is killing you. And you're really doing yourself a disservice.
I mean, there are ways to let your money work for you. It's worth a conversation. Gentlemen, we have spots on your calendar. Walk us through what's going to happen. Mark, I think you're going to give us the 411 on these appointments. Go ahead.
So if you're listening today, maybe you're retiring or going to retire from Boeing shortly. You've got questions. We just talked about maybe cash at home. What about taxes? I know everybody's worried about taxes right now. What are they going to do? Well, we know the rates are going up. So do you have a plan to address that? We want to let you tell us what your situation is because it's unique to you. We want our team is going to put together, our certified financial planning team will put together a plan specifically for you that's going to talk about income, taxes, inflation, where your money is hiding at. How do we make it work the best for you? So if you've got any of these type of questions, please pick up the phone and give us a call. We're here to help.
This is your opportunity. Call the number, grab an appointment, complimentary, leave the checkbook at home, 866-668-3625. Again, the number, 866-668-3625. Gain some confidence. A lot of you are sitting on portfolios. You haven't thought about the planning process. Now you can really take this test drive. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. When we return, more articles that caught our attention when it comes to retirement planning. We're going to talk about the magic retirement number, and it's in quotations. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Elevated Financial Management, where you can find them right here in Seattle. 42 combined years experience between these two, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for their retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. And again, folks, I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. I want to remind you, too, there's a wonderful resource website, efmnw.com. That's all letters, efmnw.com. You can find links to the TV show, Elevate Your Wealth, and, of course, our radio show and podcast form there for you. Great information, contact information. You can get in touch with Elevated Financial Management. We go back and forth on so many retirement topics each and every week, but we give you an opportunity to take action on your own behalf, and that's grabbing an appointment, complimentary, with Elevated Financial Management through the course of this show. Again, all you got to do is call 866-668-3625. So we're talking the latest articles that have caught the eye of both Mark and Casey. And this first one we kind of got into, stashing cash at home, and again, could really cause some headaches down the road. You guys wanted to keep chiming in. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think we all realize that people that are really doing this a lot of times are ones that came from the baby boomer generation. Some of them actually lived through the Depression in '29, so there's a real mistrust of financial institutions. We find that is definitely one of the biggest keys to why people are doing this. But here's, again, Casey mentioned this in the last segment. One of the things that we've got to be so worried about is if we don't tell anybody, we don't trust anybody, so we don't tell our children. And what's been happening is mom and dad go and they didn't tell anybody about what possibly was stashed. And there's instances where tens of thousands of dollars have been stashed in books, in the pages. In one example, the daughter was going to throw all the books out, and they were filled with money. And she almost didn't realize, except it was an accident, one of the bills slipped out when she then, of course, checked the book and found all this money in there. So it can create some real headaches and a real loss to the beneficiaries if no one knows what you're doing or what's caused this concern. So I would just want to tell everybody, Casey mentioned, inflation is just crushing those dollars. And so you need to have a plan. And I understand why you're doing it, but it might not make the most sense to do it that way. There may be a better way to do it without the risk of losing that money, or worse, just having nobody know about it and it gets thrown out. That's the problem.
The other part of it too is maybe it's not cash, right? Maybe you're thinking, oh well, it's not cash, it's gold, or it's these collectible things that are appreciating in value, kind of like those non-traditional assets, right? Not market based, those kinds of things. The issue that comes with those is they may be a good place to invest. They may be growing, right? That may be good. However, you're now leaving a project if something happens to you, right? Because now those all have to be sold, right? And the complication that comes with that is not only is it a child maybe that is now selling those things that actually doesn't know much about them. So now they have to be educated about these things and figure all that out. And then beyond that is they've got a circumstance where that's also an emotional thing, right? There's an emotional attachment. That was mom and dad's, right? Like I don't want to get rid of this thing. So they're not fun things to think about, really, right? It's not a fun part of our jobs to talk about this aspect of it. However, it is important because I think the last thing that anybody wants to do is leave a chore behind for their children to deal with, right? And so it's something to consider, to think about, and maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe the way you're doing it is okay, but you just need to put a plan in place that lets the kids know that that's part of it, right?
Yeah, let me ask you this, guys. Have you had a situation where you sit down with someone and this comes up and they do have a lot of money at the house? Maybe it's in something, maybe it's baseball cards, maybe it is memorabilia, maybe it's other things. Have you had the conversation about maybe having a plan for how that's going to go towards the end?
There's one in particular that comes to mind. I wonder if it's the same one you're thinking of, Mark.
Well, for me, it's a dear neighbor of mine that passed away, and the daughter is dealing with some things that she didn't plan on. Fortunately, I was able to get my neighbor Mike to get a trust in place. It's really come to help her tremendously, but there were things that Mike didn't think about. A shed was put on his property that he just wanted to let because the neighbor couldn't put it where he thought he could. And anyway, but now the daughter's dealing with it, but Mike, the dad, never told the daughter what the deal was with the shed. And so again, if you don't have these discussions and loved ones know what your wishes were or what you were doing, it's a problem. And she's dealing with that right now. And so all I can say is we talk about it every week. Pretty much, you got to have a plan, and it will eliminate so many headaches for your loved ones in that regard. I think Casey's got a thought too.
The other part of this, there's one in particular that comes to mind. Actually, was a listener of the radio show. She had $1 million in gold, literally in physical gold, not in gold certificates, not in a gold trust. No, it was at a storage facility.
Unit. Oh, wow.
In a safe. Unit. So she had bought a safe. Yeah. It was in a storage facility, and she had $1 million in gold. So
can you imagine?
Here's the real big problem in that circumstance, right? And I imagine that it's a small subset of people listening to our show that might be in that circumstance. But this is a very big example, and this might apply in some smaller circumstances for those listening. So the issue with that is, number one, does your family know about that, right? Because if your family doesn't know about that and something happens to you, which it can happen at any time, right? You might think, well, I got 20 more years before that might be. It might not, right? We all know people who have passed much earlier than you would have thought, right? So that's the first issue. The second issue is, how has gold actually been performing, right? So now you've got all of your assets essentially in one thing. There's no diversification. And so that's the other part of it. And then third is the lack of liquidity. So if you need a chunk of that money, now you got to sell it, you got to go get it, you got to deal with all that aspect of it. So there's a lot to that. And really, I like I said, it's probably a small subset of people that have something like that. But you want to think through these things, because you're always kind of thinking it in the the frame of your circumstance, but it does have a larger reach beyond that. You want to add something to that,
All
Mark?
I can say to that, I want to be the guy to bid on Storage Wars. Because I want.
Yeah.
That's why that show exists.
I know.
Exactly.
You're waiting for that.
Can
yeah.
you imagine
Holy
if you
smokes,
bid on
yeah.
that and there's $1 million and it's yours?
Pay
right?
$300 for that storage unit?
And this is real. This just happened to
Yeah,
us.
this was only just a few months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
So
very recent.
People
yeah.
are doing these type of things, and we want our audience, listening audience, to realize there can be some detrimental things that you do that could be catastrophic if you don't really plan things and know what you're doing, right, in a safe way. So, again, we love that story.
Have a plan. Make sure you know where everything is. Make sure there is access, to that roadmap. If something happens to you, make sure your loved ones, your family, your heirs know what's going on as you're moving through retirement. There's going to be an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management and talk about your situation. Again, all you've got to do is grab one of the appointments by calling 866-668-3625. Again, they are complimentary. We're hitting some articles that have caught the eye of the show, and we've talked about already keeping money at home. Or a storage facility. You need to really be careful there. Also, the magic number, we talked about this, that magic retirement number. There's one thing that you guys want to tell us about this, and this article, again, from Jessica Hall, but why did this jump out at you? Because we hear the magic number all the time.
Casey and I can't tell you how many people have come in and 1 million is their number. Okay?
All the time.
Yes.
The time. Yep.
It's almost, I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, that's what they believe, right? But we have to tell them that situation is very unique to only them, right? 1 million may be good for Casey, but 1 million for Mark may be way low or way high. We don't know. So that's the danger of setting a certain number value to your retirement goal, right? It's a lot more of what everybody needs is a plan or a goal that they're trying to reach. That's really what this is all about, because with a goal and a plan, it's going to help you to stay on track, right? Because when we get all the information, when a client comes in here, they give us everything that they need, especially their cash flow. We need to know what's going out to then be able to create, income that's going to take care of at least their basic necessities on an ongoing basis, plus some fun money. We don't want to live just to pay our bills, right, in retirement. So again, a goal is central to this. And really, I like this one statement in this article because it made this point. It said, this lack of retirement goal and anxiety about uncertain financial future is causing concern about affording necessary purchases in retirement. This was a big study that Nationwide did. So again, we want to eliminate or help to eliminate the stress and anxiety that retirement can bring. And it's especially happening to most of our clients that come in here or hear our shows because they don't simply have a plan.
And I know, too, that I know we need to go to a break, right? But I'll make this brief. We'll come back to this after the break, I'm sure. But, every situation is unique. That's really the key that we're trying to make. It's not that $1 million isn't enough for retirement. It may very well be enough for you. Whoever is listening to this, that $1 million might be enough. It might be more than enough, right? Yeah. But there's also a possibility that it's not even half of what you need. It all depends on what you need coming out of it. It all depends on how much you need to spend. So it's important to make sure you have that individual conversation.
Opportunity to get on the calendar is right now. Again, these are complimentary appointments. Call this number, 866-668-3625, as Casey said and Mark reiterated. It's all individual. You got to have a custom plan. Your situation is going to be completely different from anybody else's. And now's your opportunity to get in here and grab one. 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, grab an appointment, leave the checkbook at home. 866-668-3625. We're back on Elevate Your Wealth right after this. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management. Check us out online. Great resource website, efmnw.com. All letters, EFMNW.com. There are links to the TV show Elevate Your Wealth. You can see their pretty faces, or you can listen to our shows in podcast form. Again, EFMNW.com. Between Mark and Casey, 42 years combined experience, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for their retirement. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate, and sometimes referee between Mark and Casey. But always we have a fun conversation, but about a very serious topic, and that is being ready for retirement and having that plan. So we're in and around this magic number, the retirement number. So many people are fixated on that $1 million number. We've talked about that. The one thing I did, you start mentioning goals, and I was going to ask this question. So when you sit down with someone for the first time, what do you think the percentages are of people that sit across the table, and you can just do this, you can survey yourself, that sit across the table and they've got all their numbers and they shove it across the table, but they have no idea of what their goals are.
Honestly, I mean, that number's close to 100% for people that walk in. It really is. And it's funny, I think the industry, financial planning industry, and just when you think about retirement, that kind of thing, so much of it is numbers based, right? And we get that, right? I mean, the numbers have to line up. But the reality is that's the secondary goal. The primary goal is to spend time with your family, right? The primary goal is to take the trip that you've been waiting to take, is to do this or do that. Whatever those things are that you think about that you want to do in retirement, that's the real goal. The money is there to support that, but that money is not the purpose, right? And yet all the time, all too often, people are so caught up in just the dollars and cents of it that there's no thought given to what they want to do in retirement. And sometimes when we ask that question, right? I mean, Mark, we ask this question all the time. What do you want to do in retirement? What are you looking forward to? Forget the numbers, right? We're going to come back to that. That's what we do, right? But what do you really want to do in retirement? And sometimes it's like a deer in the headlights. Like they never thought about it, right? Yeah. And that's okay, right? If you're listening to the show and that's you and you're realizing, man, I'm not sure that I really know what I want to do. I haven't really given that a lot of thought. That's all right. We're not trying to make fun of anybody or give anybody a hard time. But the reality is that is really the main purpose. And, that's why this is so unique, because what you want to do in retirement will have a direct impact on how your investments are structured. It'll have a direct impact on what type of income you need, on what supplemental income you need, and all those kinds of things, right? If you're going to go live abroad, that's a very unique situation. We have a lot of clients that do that. Yeah. But we have lots of clients that stay here locally or that stay within the United States, right? And their circumstance is different. And so there's a particular case that comes to mind, a particular client that comes to mind. They came in recently, husband and wife. The wife has a nice little Social Security. The husband actually is not going to have any Social Security. He's not going to get $1 from Social Security, but he has a $9,000 a month pension. So that's a very unique circumstance, right? It's not common that we see pensions that high. I mean, that's huge. And then he's not going to have Social Security at all, right? So that brings up its own set of things that we have to tackle when we plan. But what do they really want to do in retirement, right? That's really what it's all about.
And this is what I want to say to that is this couple, they know they're going to have income, but they don't have any plan, because for us, this is why we're so different than the big box stores, because the numbers are important, but it's secondary to us. Where the rubber meets the road is, what are their goals? What do they want to do in retirement? I want them to make memories. Isn't it interesting? People want to leave money to their children, and that's fine. We get that. But how cool is it to maybe do that and make memories while you're still alive instead of 6 feet under? And so, again, by having a plan, it's going to allow them to have the freedom, mentally especially, to spend the money and know they're never going to be in trouble. They're never going to have to be anxious about, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I just bought a new truck. Or is that going to take our retirement? See, this is what we don't want people to stress about. And again, Casey mentioned, we've got some clients that are going to Thailand. It's an amazing story. They're going to live there about 7 months a year in a penthouse apartment that looks like it's a 5-star resort. Okay, and then they're going to come back here. But they have a plan now. They know the income is set, and they're going to be able to do it. This is what we want our clients to experience, is true retirement freedom. And that's what they're going to do with a good plan.
We're talking about an article that came out recently. Jessica Hall penned it, and it's about the magic retirement number. and not worrying about it, because it's going to be different for everybody out there. And you take a poll, and I would say 90% of the people are going to respond $1 million is going to be their magic number. And that's what we're kind of talking about. It's going to be different for everybody. It may be enough for plenty of us. It may not be enough for some of you out there.
Sure.
But having a plan, you're going to know the number. It'll give you direction. If you have a goal in retirement, this article talks about, setting goals that allows you, it's like a roadmap. I mean, when you start out on a trip, you have the goal, your destination, right? So you're going to map out your directions to that destination. Yep. If you just go into retirement and there is no goal, there is no direction, that can cause chaos. I mean, you just don't know the answers. But having a plan and being ready for it, setting those goals and mapping out that plan, knowing what the number is, how much it's going to cost, I mean, that's called confidence as you move towards retirement. Now, the opportunity, there are a lot of you out there that are probably going, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. Now's the opportunity to get in the office and talk about your situation. The appointments we make available today are complimentary. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. You can grab an appointment at any time during the show while they remain open. And folks, the number to call is 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. So back to our magic number. $1 million, $2 million, might be less than $1 million, maybe more than $2 million. It's an individual thing. So many people get caught up in that particular magic number. If they don't have a plan, guys, if they don't have this roadmap, they really don't know what their number is.
That's it. Yeah. If you haven't had the conversation, you're not going to know, right? And that's really, you want to know what the outcome needs to be, right? What the goal is, right? What the end goal is. And then you backwards figure out how you get there, right? Now, maybe if you're right on the cusp of retirement, maybe this is not the right time for you to start figuring out, well, how do I get to this number and that number, right? If you're planning on retiring next week or pretty quick, then that's not really part of the conversation. Part of the conversation is, or that conversation really goes to what type of income can I get from what I've saved, right? But if you've got some time leading up to retirement, you really want to think through that. And I thought this was pretty interesting. The article said for those that do have a figure in mind, 42% of investors believe they need between $1 million and $2 million to retire, while 18% believe they need more than $2 million saved to comfortably retire. So that's a big number, right? $1 million, $2 million, 18% think they need more than $2 million. And they may very well be correct, right? If they have a lifestyle that dictates that much spending, that's probably not our normal client that needs, $200,000 a year worth of income in retirement. We do have some folks that way. But the reality is it doesn't really matter, right? Because your situation is unique to you. So what do you need, right? And that's really how we start to approach these things. And, I think what's so different about how we do things here is that because we are holistic retirement planners, we are very much focused on income. Income is the biggest piece of what we do for folks. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. But income is what really is going to allow you to meet your goals and to live your life in retirement. And we want to make sure that we do that the best way possible for everybody that we meet with.
Yeah, this article had an interesting point. It said, without a goal and a number, you're just wandering in the desert.
Yep.
Okay. And I just think that is so true. A lot of people that don't have a plan, they have a portfolio. And let's just say you have $1 million in that portfolio. But the key is, now how do you get it out and turn it into income? That's the key to this whole thing. And so, again, this is where a plan is so critical to helping you to realize that goal. So having a number is great because you're shooting towards something, right? Just like in golf, I know I need my 7-iron to go 165 yards. Well, again, if you use a 9-iron, you may not get there, right? Or if you use a 6-iron, it might be too much.
You make it sound so easy. How do you keep it straight, though? That's a big thing, right? Maybe you get the distance, but mine's in the woods.
I'm sitting there going, wow, you hit a 165? That's impressive.
Well, I didn't until I put graphite shafts in.
He can throw the club 165.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen it. He's good.
It goes either 165 throwing it or in the water. But I just want everyone to realize this is why we want you to become spenders. and not just savers.
Sure.
And once you have the confidence to do that, your retirement can turn out to be amazing. And that's what we focus on here. We want good people to enjoy an amazing retirement. And if you do this right, you can be very, very successful.
Yeah, the whole point of the article, and it really brings it to the fore, is that everybody's number is going to be different. Where you retire, what time, when you retire on your horizon,
right?
What's the number you're going to need? So fixating on $1 million, probably not the thing to do. But if you have a plan, you're going to know your numbers, and knowing your numbers, that's confidence.
Yeah, and that $1 million, it's not that it's a bad goal, right?
Nope.
I mean, that's great. That's a great goal. Is it the right goal? That's the question, right? Is that the right number for you? And you don't know until you have the conversation, until you map it out, until you start figuring all those things out. But ultimately, there's nothing wrong with that as a goal. It just may not be enough, or maybe it's too much. Maybe you're sacrificing the way you live your life today, saving for tomorrow, right? So you want to have the right balance, and it just all starts with the conversation.
I tell you, and the opportunity to sit down and without your checkbook, kind of kick the tires, get to know Elevated Financial Management. I mean, it's right now. You get to know Mark, Casey, their team, how they do business. They'll get to know you. You can ask questions. You get answers back. That's what we're doing right now. We have the appointments. Mark, what you got for us?
Yeah, so please, if you're listening today, maybe you're getting ready to retire. I don't care if it's from Boeing, wherever it is. Please pick up the phone. We have a wonderful back office team of certified financial planners that are going to put together a plan, whether it's $1 million or $500,000 or $10 million. It doesn't matter. It's unique to you, but we're going to help you figure out taxes. Taxes are on everybody's mind right now. It's a big issue. The same way it is, what are you going to do when it comes to medical? Are you going to decide, do I need Med Sup or Med Advantage? What about legacy planning? We do a lot of trust work here. So again, we want you to have a retirement that you deserve. So please pick up the phone, give us a call. Morgan mentioned you can leave your checkbook at home. Let's just have a conversation. That's all we would like to do. So please pick up the phone, give us a call.
All right, the appointments are available right now. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, secure an appointment, 866-668-3625. What's your magic number? Have that conversation. 866-668-3625. An opportunity to gain confidence as you make your way towards retirement. 866-668-3625. When we return, it's time for retirement scenarios. I'll throw them at the fellas, see what they come up with. It's all coming up next. On Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Elevated Financial Management, where you can find them right here in Seattle. Over 42 years combined experience between these two in the retirement planning business, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for what is their end game, their retirement. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Great resource website. Check it out, efmnw.com. All letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show Elevate Your Wealth, our radio show and podcast forum, a ton of information on retirement. Get to know Elevated Financial Management, efmnw.com. It's now time for scenarios. I want to remind you, these scenarios might be similar to what you're going through, but they're not exactly what you're going through. So we've talked about magic numbers. We've talked about goals today. Your situation is unique to you. You need to make sure you have a plan that is just as customized. There's an opportunity in front of you right now to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, and these are complimentary appointments. You leave the checkbook at home. All you got to do is call 866-668-3625. All right, scenario number one. Mark, to you, all of my friends say that you need at least, $1 million saved to retire comfortably these days.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. But I only have about half of that, so let's say $500K. So I'm a little worried about retiring next year. I'm 65 currently. Should I keep working into my 70s?
Well, that's a great question, right? And we've talked about this show in and show out. We talked about it today. $1 million may be great for you, right? We just don't know. But if you come in or talk to somebody that's going to be able to analyze those numbers a little bit, Figure out what your goals are, what your spending needs are going to be. That's going to help to answer that question, because there is a lot more information that both Casey and I would need to have to be able to tell you if you might have to work a little bit longer. But what I will say to this is we've got clients now, several, that are doing what we call a little hybrid type retirement, where they find maybe a hobby that they're really passionate about, or a charity, or they work one a little bit part-time. And for me, I love Home Depot. If I wanted to do something part-time, I might go talk to the Home Depot boys and say, hey, could I work part-time? Because really, you've got to think about how many hours do you want to work? What do you want to do in retirement? And maybe with a hybrid retirement for a few years, maybe you won't need as much money. Something to think about. And what we're finding is a lot of those people that are doing that, they're really happy. They stay engaged, because people don't realize if you've been in a company for 30 or 40 years, all of a sudden that social network, that working network is now gone. And people don't realize how devastating that can be emotionally, especially what if you've lost your spouse? And you're by yourself, and you're not, that social connection that you had at work is huge, and people sometimes don't talk about that or plan for that. And all I would say is you need to have somebody help you with that, because if you don't, the emotional toll and anxiety that's going to come, and it can come fairly quickly if you don't have a plan and haven't thought about these type of things, it can create an issue that can be a good roadblock for you. So please talk to somebody that can really help you about the true retirement planning that needs to be done.
Yeah, and that social network is a big deal, right?
Big deal.
I mean, that's huge, right? And you know what? You might think of people that you work with and go, man, that guy drives me nuts. I'm looking forward to not seeing him anymore, right? Or whoever it is, right? But the truth of it is just seeing nobody, right? Going from seeing people at work, even if they might bug you, to seeing nobody, that's a big change, right? And that I mean, it could be the greatest thing for you. It could drive you crazy, right? So, I mean, you gotta have something to fill that time with. Sure. And we have clients on both ends of that spectrum, right? There's a client that comes to mind that is totally happy seeing his friends once a week, and that's it. The rest of the time he's by himself doing what he wants to do, and that's great. He loves it. It works perfect for him. And we've got other folks that there's a lady, she came into our office and she said, I go on a cruise, 6 cruises a year. I want to go on 12. Right, so she is just itching to be around as many new people as she can be, and she's trying to figure out how to make that happen. Right, so it's different things for different people, and that's okay. But you just have to make sure you've thought through it, right? Because retirement is not just sitting on a beach sipping Mai Tais. Maybe it is for some, but it isn't for most. Right, so you got to figure out what you want to do and how you're going to do it.
I think you both have hit on something that a lot of people don't think about, and we work our entire lives to get into retirement, but having goals. Talking about what you're going to do in retirement before you get there, that leads to confidence in your plan. Just showing up at retirement's door and not knowing what you're going to do, and all of a sudden you're a routine person and you have that work group, and now that work group is gone. I mean, it can really have an impact. Mark, you said it. I mean, it can be very emotional. If you're prepared for it, though, if you're using your time in ways where you're going to get through your day, that's going to be helpful. If you don't plan that out, it's not going to happen. It's not just going to poof out of thin air.
Yeah. I
mean, you really need to be thinking about this. I mean, we often talk about the numbers, but the emotional side of retirement is just as big. Because if you're going to enjoy retirement, you need to be ready for it emotionally. All right, so we are in the middle of our scenarios, and I absolutely love this because, we get into, stuff that can happen and how the gentleman here at Elevated Financial Management would handle said situation. All right, Casey, this one to you. Well into retirement age, although I am still at work, still working. I've got my nest egg of about $500,000 invested entirely in stocks. But I'm getting a little bit worried about future, the economy, the market. Should I be transferring everything into a safer situation?
That is a tough question. there is some complications to that question, because the idea of should I be transferring into a safer investment, how are you actually currently invested, right? That's the hard part. We don't know that. So when we say should you be transferring to a safer investment, safer in comparison to what, right? What are you currently in? So that's the first piece. There's definitely some more information that we could use there. Now, let's say there was an opportunity to move things into a quote-unquote safer account, right? And you're well into retirement age, you're still working, you got about $500,000, you're worried about the horizon of the economy, of the stock market. I think you should definitely consider some other options. It's hard for me to draw a line in the sand and just say, move it into something safer, because again, we don't really know what that means in the context of this particular circumstance. But I will say that, man, as you're approaching retirement and as you're in the early stages of retirement, being invested the right way is of the utmost importance, because what happens during the 5 years leading up to retirement and the first 5 to 10 years of retirement will have a lifetime impact, right? That is the biggest piece to this. So we got to make sure that we do adjust the way that we're invested when we're getting close to retirement, or even just all the way through retirement. We've got to make sure we're invested in a way to keep the assets that we have. We don't want to continue down the same path that we had when we were 40, because that may have made you successful when you were 40 all the way to 50, 55, 60, but that is not what's going to keep you successful in retirement. It's a very different approach. You want to add something, Mark?
Yeah, see, and that's where everything that we do in our planning springbobs off of income. So knowing what your income is going to be, are you going to have a pension? We need to make sure that your income is set. You can have all this extra money, but you don't have much income, so that money's going to be needed, right, to create possibly a private pension. See, so again, income. That's what truly makes retirement freedom something that all of us want. And once you have the income set, the rest of it kind of falls into place. Even if we lose a big chunk of money in the market, right? If our income is set, it won't be near as devastating to us as if our income is based on the market, then it tanks, and now our lifestyle gets cut by 50%. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to want that. So again, a plan's going to help to eliminate that anxiety.
Yeah, if you've got great Social Security and you've got a pension, and you got another $500,000 invested in the market, but your income is already taken care of, then moving to a safer investment may not actually be the wisest choice, because it really has to do with when you need that money. If you need that money to produce income for you in the next 1 to 5 to 10 years, well, that has to be invested a certain way. If you don't need it for 15 or 20 years, or it's going to be money that you're going to give as an inheritance, well, then we invest that very differently, because the time frame of that is different, and that time frame has a huge impact on how the market affects it and the way that you would invest accordingly.
So many of you out there are sitting on portfolios and you haven't thought about the planning process. Now's the time to think about it. Opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management ongoing during the course of this show. All you've got to do is call 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, secure an appointment right now, leave the checkbook at home, 866-668-3625. Final scenario for this week is this one. We go to Mark with this, in case you can jump in. Is it wise or unwise to try to start planning how I'm going to handle the inheritance that I get when my mother passes away? She's in her late 80s, in declining health, and I expect to get a substantial amount when she finally passes. So I certainly don't want to ask her what I can expect to get, but I do want to be able to start planning. How do you advise people in this situation?
Yeah, all of us would like to ask and know, right? But sometimes we're not going to be able to do that.
That's a tough circumstance.
It is a tough circumstance. Some of us might have parents that are willing to divulge information like that, but a lot aren't. But the point is, this is where planning, and we are big believers in trust for our clients, because I love to be able to eliminate probate for my planning clients. And that's where a lot of this can actually take off from, because if you do set up a trust, you're going to be able to get a list of all those assets. We're going to know what they are, because they have to be put in there to have a successful trust set up. So again, planning is what we're talking about. You need to do some planning so that you take care of your loved ones in the right way. So again, just call us, have a conversation.
All right, Casey, we've got the appointments. Walk us through how these appointments are going to go.
Well, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is your opportunity. Maybe this is your first time listening to the show. Maybe you've been listening to it for months or even years possibly. But we have the same offer because we know this is what people need. It's a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. So we have a whole group that is solely focused on making sure that we look at all the parts and pieces to your retirement. We're going to talk about how you're currently invested, what your goals are, and then how to bridge the gap between those two things. Everything that we talked about on today's show and that we talk about every single week is good general information, but does it apply in your individual circumstance? Or how does it apply in your individual circumstance? This is your opportunity to have a conversation solely focused on you and figuring out what you need to be successful in retirement. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Call us now.
I tell you, it's custom. Yeah, you got to talk about yourself. You got to sit down and see what your goals are and get that roadmap put together. You can do it right now. Call the number 866-668-3625. Again, leave the checkbook at home. These are complimentary appointments. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number now. Secure an appointment. 866-668-3625. Elevated Financial Management ready for you right now. Call 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books. For Mark and Casey, I'm Morgan. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.